Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So in this video I'm going to be showing you guys how to make this top. So I'm going to be making it in form of a sleeveless, but you can make yours with a full sleeve. So what I have here is just my shoulder to my nipple, which is my nipple line, my shoulder to my underbust, which is my at 15.5. This one is at 11, which is this one is my underbust, and then my shoulder to my waist, which is at 17, and then my shoulder to my hip, which is here. So guys, I actually added a few more inches because I want this to look like a basic waist, right? But if you don't want yours, you can just stop where your normal natural waist stops. Where you would want it, well, whatever length you want actually is what you would use. So now the next thing I'm going to do is just to go up here and do my shoulder measurement divided by 2 minus 1. So her shoulder is 16, divided by 2 is 8, minus 1 is 7. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that here. The next thing I'm going to do is to come down by 1 inch of shoulder slope, and then I'm going to insert her armhole divided by 2 where it would normally be, which is at 9 here, right? So I'm going to rule a line across this way for her armhole, and then the next thing I'm going to do is to insert her bust measurement. First I'm going to insert the shoulder measurement that I used here, which is 7, just so I can get my straight line, and then I'm going to connect it to each other from the top to this point. And then the next thing I have to mark here is just her bust divided by 4, which her bust is 41, divided by 4 is going to be 10.25. Go ahead and mark that here. And then the next thing is to give it a curve to connect from this line of your armhole to the line of the to the point where you have the bust measurement. So guys, once that is done, the next thing I'm going to do is just to mark my neckline divided by 2. So the neckline I'm working with is going to be, I'm going to just use 3 inches here. And then the next thing is just to connect this 1 inch of shoulder slope to that 3 inches. So I'm going to just go ahead and mark that. And then once that is done, I'm going to come down here to the nipple line and insert my bust divided by, my nipple to nipple divided by 2 plus half an inch. Mark that. Come under my under bust, mark the same 4.5 also. Mark it here, and then I'm also going to mark it on my hip. And once you've done that, the next thing is to add in the you can use 1.5, you can use you can use 2 inches if you want to. But before that, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and connect it this all the way to the top, this way. So I'm going to connect it like this, and then once you've done that, you're going to go ahead now and mark. Maybe if you want, you can use 2 inches. I'm just going to use 1.5 here for my bust here, and then I'm going to mark it here, and then you're also going to mark it on your under bust line. Connect those lines together too. So I have a space of 1.5 in between here. And then the next thing to do is just to come down 1 inch on this nipple line. From here, I'm going to come down 1 inch on this nipple line here, and then I'm going to connect it to this point. So you're going to blend it in this way. Once that is done, I'm going to go up to the armhole, guys, because I've already subtracted 1 inch from this width of my armhole, and it's going to be a sleeveless, because normally, you remember what you do for the front, you come in half an inch just so that you can reduce the bulkiness of fabric here. But remember, we've already subtracted 1 inch, because normally my shoulder would have been here, my armhole would have come in here, but I've already taken away 1 inch from there, so there's no need of doing all that. Instead, I'm just going to add my dart to pull it together, because it's now inside of my shoulder. So now the next thing you're going to do, from this 1 inch of shoulder slope, you're going to place your tape and measure out what you have all the way to this curve. So I have about, so from here, if I measure mine, I would have about 10.5. So halfway through that is going to be about 5.25. Mark that, connect it to your nipple line. So I'm going to go ahead and connect it to this point here. And then the next thing is to go up 1 inch from this line above, and then mark 1 inch from that line below. So I'm going to mark 1 inch above and then 1 inch below. If you're more on the smaller side, you can do 0.75, 0.75. But this is for a big bust. So I'm just going to go ahead and blend it into this point. From here, I'm also going to blend it from this one here. And then on the lower line, this lower point here, the 1 inch, instead of blending it in, I'm going to go past that line by about 1.5. So what you're going to do is to measure at least whatever you took away from here. You can do that same 2 inches, whatever you. So I'm going to just do that same 2 inches, extend it here, just to increase the length, the leg of my darts, and then I'm going to blend it in. So I've increased it by 2 inches from here to here. So now this is now my new armhole. This is now my new armhole. So I'm just going to connect this one here. So now basically this is done. So make sure you give it a curve here so that it's not pointy at anywhere. So now basically this is done. All I have to do is just to start inside my measurement. First, I'm going to go to the bust, divide it by 4. Sorry, which I've already marked what is supposed to be here. And then I'm going to insert my whatever you had here, which is 2 inches. You can put back that, and then you're going to put in your 2 inches of sewing it. 2 inches of sewing it might be too much, so you can just do 1.5, right? And then this. So the same thing is what I'm going to do at the waist. I'm going to mark my waist, her waist measurement divided by 4, which her waist is about 36. Divided by 4 is going to be 9. Mark it, and then insert this 1.5 here. Put that back, and then I'm going to add in 2 inches or 1.5 of sewing, depending on you and how much fabric you use for sewing, but normally people just do 2 inches. And then coming down to the hip, you will do the same thing. Use your hip measurement on this lower line, hip divided by 4, which is going to be about 11.5 plus this 1.5 here. And then I'm going to do extra 1.5 of sewing, but instead of joining it at that point, I'm just going to join the upper one. So I'm going to join this upper one now, but this lower one coming to this line, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead, and this is where I want the bottom part of the extension of the waist, right? So I'm also going to connect this, so connect it to the hip this way. And then what I'm going to do now is, depending on how low you want it to be, you can do 4 inches from below your waist on this line. 4 inches, or you can do 3 inches. Some people even do 1 inch just below their waist, depending on where you want your curve to start. But just put into consideration that the higher you go from your waist, the more skin will be below. So if you want it to look like you want to cover all the way on your waist, you can do like 4 inches or 3 inches, depending on the distance from your waist to where you pull up your pants, right? And the kind of outfit you plan on wearing with this. So this is what I'm going to do, just 4 inches below, this way. And then I'm going to just connect it from here, and then I'm going to blend it in. So you can make it pointy. If you don't want to make it pointy, you can just give it a curve to stop somewhere here, which is what I'm going to do. Mine is going to have a curve from here all the way, sorry, from here, just like that. Sorry, just blend it in to give you just this curve here. So you see what mine looks like. So this is basically what my top is going to look like. I'm going to go ahead now and start to cut. So I'm going to cut from here, but remember I still need this 1/2 inch of sewing it, right? Remember, I'm going to add 1/2 inch of seam allowance here. So guys, basically you cut this part out, and then you cut this part out, right? And then the sides. So guys, now we have to do the neckline too. So for the neckline, it depends on you. And guys, don't forget to add in that 1/2 inch of sewing at the shoulder, or you can add it when you go to your fabric. So the next thing I'm going to do is just to come down here. I measured from her shoulder to just above her bust, which was about 7 inches, right? So I'm going to mark from this point to down to 7 inches. So So guys, I'm going to take away 1/2 inch extra on this shoulder. So now my shoulder is 3.5 because my shoulder is still going to be 4 inches, but if I do 4 inches now, I'm still going to need 1/2 inch on the lining. So that's why I'm doing 1/2 inch, and I'm just doing, instead of your basic 3 inches of neckline, I did 3.5, but what I want is 4 inches. But remember, I still need 1/2 inch when joining it to the fabric, to the lining. So instead of cutting it out now, I'm just going to let it be, since I'm still going to take it away from the lining. So now I've extended the neckline. I'm also going to come down here and mark it, right? I'm going to mark that 3.5 here. And then I came down from her shoulder to about 7 inches down. And then I'm going to just mark it from here in form of like a square neck is what it's going to be. And then I'm going to connect it this way. So this is basically going to be the neck of this here. So it's 3.5 by 3.5 by 7 is what I'm using as the neckline. So guys, this is it here. So this is basically what it looks like. So I'm going to just take it this way, and then I'm going to join from here to here. You're going to cut this out on a lining though. You're going to cut it on a lining, cut it on a fabric. So now we'll move over to the back panel. So guys, you see what I did here? I just marked 1.5 inch of zipper allowance. Guys, you can even use a strap for the back here. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to be using a zip. So the next thing you're going to do is, after marking the what you want to use as your zip allowance, 1 inch, you're going to put your shoulder measurement divided by 2. Subtract the 1 inch just like you did for the front. So the width I have here is just 7 inches after my zip. So 7 inches from that point to this point. Mark 3 inches of basic neckline, 1 inch of shoulder slope. Marked the two, connected it this way, and then gave it 1/2 inch at the top. And then from that point, I marked my armhole divided by 2, which is at 9. Gave it a curve, but the curve came right after I did my bust divided by 4. I marked that here, and then I gave it a curve into this line. So guys, now the next thing I'm going to do is to put in my nipple to nipple divided by 2 plus 1/2 inch, just like we did before. Mark it also down here, and then I'm going to connect the two of them together. So connect it here, and then don't forget to also mark from your shoulder to your nipple line, which for me is somewhere here. So I'm going to also insert that here, and then I'm going to extend this line to this point. Extend that 4.5 inch also on your nipple line. And then what you're going to do now is come up to this armhole. What you're going to do, instead of the 5 inches that I did in front, I'm going to take it up like 2 inches above that, which might be at 3 inches or 3.5, somewhere here. 3.5 down from here, because this part doesn't have it doesn't have any bust, so you don't want the curve at the back to be too sharp. So I'm just going to blend it into this line, because what you're actually looking for is for it to look almost like a straight line, right? So I'm going to cut it into this line this way. It's even better if you can make it look like almost like it's standing. So connect it to the top, and then the next thing you're going to do is to extend that line, that center line you made now, this straight line that you connected to the armhole, extend it by 1 inch out, right? Which I've done now. And then this is now going to be my new armhole. I'm going to blend it into the armhole. This is going to be my new back armhole. So you're just going to connect it into this line. This is now my new back armhole. Blend it into this part. So guys, that's basically it for your back panel. All you have to do now is just going to be to go in here. You've already marked your bust divided by 4. I'm just going to insert this 1 inch on top of here, and then I'm going to insert 2 inches or 1.5 of sewing allowance, depending on you. I'm going to come to the waist, do the same thing. This is my waistline. Waist divided by 4, which is 9. I'm just going to do 2 inches of sewing it. There's no extra dart here because it's just a straight line to split it open, just to give that look of the bust here, right? So now all you're going to do is to get the front panel. I'm going to get this front panel now, and I'm going to place it here. This is just for me. I'm not going to use this one. I'm going to use this one, right? So once you finish this, connect the sides, right? You're going to connect the sides. You also connect it even on the waist too. So you're on the hip, sorry, your hip divided by 4, whatever that is. you're going to go on and put in your 2 inches or 1.5 of sewing, depending on what you've been using. I'm going to blend it into this way, and then I'm also going to do this. What I'm now going to do is to use this fabric here to cut where I want it to be. So remember, you're going to use it to mark where, because in front we did 3 inches below or 4 inches below the waistline, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to mark it here. This is where my waist was, right? And then I did 3 inches below that. But what I'm going to do is, instead of making that curve that I have in front, I'm going to make this one a straight line, because I don't want the basic at the back. But if you want the basic, all you have to do is again blend it in a curve this way. But I want the back to look straight, right? But you can't do that without making sure that the sides are the same length, because these two sides are going to meet each other, right? The seam allowance from this front, this seam allowance here is going to meet up with the seam allowance from the back. So one thing you want to make sure is that the two of them are of the same length, because if the one in front is 3 inches, let's say the one in front now is 3 inches above, and then the one at the back is 2 inches above, like 2 inches below your waistline, it's not going to meet up. One is going to be longer. So one thing you want to make sure of is that for the front and the back you have the same length, right? So now I'm going to go ahead and cut it off. So guys, you see the back, there's no dart in between. It's just to join these two together. Guys, another thing you have to do is the same thing we did for the neckline in front. Come in here, and then you're going to do the like I said, 3.5 is what I'm using. Just always remember, it's after your zipper for the back, right? The front you start at the edge, but at the back you start after the zipper. So the 3.5, I'm going to also mark it here, and then I'm going to come down. It depends on you, the length you want to use for the back. You can use the same length you use in front for the back, but I'm going to take the back up by at least 1 inch, because I don't want it too low at the back. And then I'm going to draw the square. So I'm just going to place my ruler almost as if it's at 90 degrees, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut. So just like that, this way. And then I'm going to cut this out. So guys, I'm going to be cutting 2 of each of them, the front, the back, the side of the back, the center of the back. The only thing that will be on a fold is the center front, which is this and then I'm going to cut it, making sure that this center part of it is on a fold. Every other thing I can cut with the sides out, right? So I'm going to go ahead and cut 2 pieces of this, 2 pieces of this, 2 pieces of this, and this one on a fold. So guys, like I said, what I'm using here is less than 1 yard. You see the fabric is folded into 2, and then I've pinned down everything. So like there's not supposed to be any seam allowance here, because all your seam allowance, you're tracing this whole thing exactly like the paper, so there's no need for seam allowance. So I'm going to go ahead, like I said, this one center front is on a fold. I just want to show you guys how I pinned it down, and I was able to fit it into less than 1 yard of fabric. Like I said, this is folded into 2. You see, it's folded into. So guys, you see this now, I've joined the shoulder, I've joined the parts together. So you see, I've joined it. Guys, if you want, you can just take your bias and do any design you want. Like this is what I did for my own, because this is not going to be, I'm not going to be adding any boning. So I just placed bias, sewed it by the center, sewed it this way. If you see the one on the thumbnail, you can make yours go in like from this direction in. Just do your thing. This is how I want mine to be. So all I'm going to do now is just to take it the way it is now. You see, this is the bust part. So I basically put 1 on the center, and then 2 right below where the under bust is. So I've also gone ahead and joined my lining. So I'm going to just take the lining this way and just place it right side facing each other. You see, this is the wrong side of my lining, this is the wrong side of the fabric. I'm going to place it this way. So guys, the only part I'm going to be leaving open is just the zipper part, which is this center part where the zip will be, right? Like I said, if you want, you can cut off that zipper allowance, remove extra 1 inch from it, and then use strap, just put like a lace up in between, right? If you want that look, but I want mine to have a zip at the back. So like I said, all this neckline will be closed. Like I'm going to use half an inch to sew it. The armhole, use half an inch to sew it. This armhole, use half an inch to sew it. And then the bottom, use half an inch to join it, use half an inch to join it, use half an inch to join the bottom in front too. And then I'm going to now flip it in. So if you want to flip it out, all you have to do is you can go from the side and then flip the front, this armhole out, and then go from the side also and flip this back panel out. You understand? So you're taking the back panel from this side out, and then from this other side seam take the back panel out. So guys, like I said, I've gone ahead and turned mine around. So this is what it looks like. You see what the front looks like here, and then I flip this sleeve also. So once you do that, you can go ahead and close up the side, close up the other side too, because if you look from the inside, you see I've already sewn it close, right? And you can also sew it in such a way that you can hide this seam and it will not be visible. But I just made mine this way so that in case if I want to take it in, I can always do that. But you can hide the seam inside. So this is what the back looks like. So basically I went ahead and sewed this down at least like 3 inches, and then I put in the zip facing down this way, because it won't be a problem, because my head can definitely fit in here. So that's why I closed it up this way and then put in my zip, because if I put my zip facing up, I'm not sure if it will pass through at the lower part. So that's why I made it this way. But you can do it anyhow you want if you have a longer zip. So that's basically it here. And guys, like I said, you can do whatever design you want in front. It depends on you. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Please like, share and subscribe. Bye.